We want to bring the events that are happening in the world from a biblical perspective and also a prophetic perspective, so that you and I can understand what the world's going on here. And what I want to talk about this week is involved in running for president of the United States, and they can't stand her. Remember what the Lord said, when you see all these things begin to happen, look up, lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near. Hey everybody, welcome to the Prophetic Edge, a broadcast of Tip of the Spear Ministries. We're glad you could join us. We want to look at the events that are happening in the world from a biblical standpoint and a prophetic standpoint. And what we want to focus in on today is the pagers that are blowing up among Hezbollah and the pagers that are blowing up, the radios that are blowing up among Hezbollah as well in Lebanon. And just a little background on this, what's been going on in the north of Israel is that once Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, the next day Hezbollah decides to start firing rockets. And it's been a daily barrage of rockets ever since then into the north. And as you know, Hezbollah is a proxy for Iran, and so is Hamas. But since then, as you can see on the screen, about 26 civilians in Israel have been killed, along with 20 IDF soldiers. And Hezbollah has named about 450 have been killed, and then 79 other operatives, which, hey, that's a good thing when there's 450 and 79 Hezbollah operatives, because you're talking about terrorists. So that's a good thing that the terrorists have been killed, but there's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of Hezbollah operatives up there in the north that continue to fire these rockets down. So what's been happening in the north is the Israeli population in the north have had to get out of there, that northern area that borders up to Lebanon, and had to evacuate. And what they have done is move into the northern hotels by the Sea of Galilee and other places like that to live away from their homes. And just imagine, they have been out of their homes since October 8th to this very day. And a lot of them can't go back because of the rockets. And you're talking about 80 to 85, 90,000 people, some estimate up to 100,000 Israelis displaced out of their homes because of this. So it's unsustainable. Israel has to do something about it. It's ridiculous. And Israel, eventually is going to have to attack Hezbollah and wipe Hezbollah out, just like they have to wipe out Hamas, okay? So this has been going on for some time, and just imagine yourself having to live in a hotel for all that period of time. Well, anyway, these pagers blew up, and according to some reports, 14 were killed, 450 wounded in Lebanon. And this was the second wave when the radios blew up. The first day on Tuesday, about 12 people died, and hundreds were wounded, thousands were wounded, I should say. And what precipitated this? Well, what precipitated this was Hassan Nasrallah telling the Hezbollah operatives, hey, look, Israel is tracking you on your mobile phones. And so to avoid being hacked or targeted by Israel aerial attacks, we're going to ask you to get rid of your phones, your cell phones, and we're going to give you pagers and walkie-talkies and stuff like that. And so here's a picture of the pagers that were given out. And this is just a pager, straight from the 80s when we used pagers when we didn't have cell phones. And this is what was given to them. And again, this was not given to civilians. It was given to Hezbollah operatives, terrorists, okay? So the fact that they went and blew up and killed these people is terrorism, okay? So they killed terrorists. So it wasn't that Israel was targeting civilians. It was Israel was targeting terrorists, and that's a big difference. You have to understand that. Hezbollah and Hamas and Iran target civilians of Israel. Israel targets terrorists, okay? So it's not apples to apples. And this is, the way Israel was going about this. So here's some of the pictures of the cell phones and the radios, the walkie-talkies that blew up. And I'm going to show you some videos. Here's a video, and again, as you're watching these videos, these are Hezbollah operatives that it's blowing up on. These are not civilians. I know they look like civilians and they're going to markets and stuff like that, but they're not. The only way they have these pagers is because they're part of Hezbollah. Okay, so here's a video of a guy in a grocery store or a market type place, and it's going off on him. So people obviously don't know what's happening. They're confused. They think he's got shot. But anyway, these, again, are Hezbollah operatives. Let me show you another video. Here's a guy in the yellow, and he's at a grocery store checking out, and his pager goes off. Watch this. Here's another one that happened outside as their pagers started going off, and they were all going off at the same time. So here's this video. So again, here's some pictures I want to show you of when they did blow up. Sometimes it ignited cars that caught on fire, apartments caught on fire, as you can see in these pictures. Here's some video footage of these fires that it caused. There's a motorcycle right there, and these guys are working, and it blew up on them. People are outside, things are going off. Set a car on fire. So it did some damage, and you're thinking, okay, so why would Israel do this? If it only killed, on the first day about a dozen people and injured about several thousand, and then the next day with the walkie-talkies going off, it killed about 14, and hundreds were injured. What was that? Because, well, first of all, it's Israel targeting specifically Hezbollah. Okay, so that's a good thing. But why didn't they go to the full Monty and put enough explosives in there, to kill them? Well, apparently there's not enough room in there in these pagers or the walkie-talkies to get enough explosives to do that. So it was part of an operation, and again, like JNS pointed out, these pagers were not for the general public. And in fact, what the article said beyond that, very few civilians carry pagers in the year 2024. So the claim that this operation was indiscriminate or disingenuous. Rules on targeting are principally necessity, distinction, and proportionality. It's hard to imagine a better means of targeting Hezbollah operatives. There are basically no international laws that violated, as the left claims. And so you might say, well, okay, what was this? Well, it's part of a psychological operation. And the idea of a psychological operation is to confuse your enemies, to instill fear in them, and to have them realize that, wait a second, these people can target me personally. They can find out where I am and target me. Much like Israel targeting the one Hamas leader, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he had went into Tehran and was hiding in Tehran, And Israel basically went in there in a special ops, put explosives in the guy's bed. This is in Tehran, okay? Put explosives in his bed. And then when that guy went to sleep that night, they blew the whole bed up with him in it, and there wasn't anything left of him. And what was the message? The message that Israel was doing through the psychological operation is, don't think you can run and hide. We can find you wherever you're at, and we can target you and destroy you. And that's a little bit of what the pagers was all about. But there was something else bigger that happened. So in this article from Times of Israel, entitled Use It or Lose It, Israel reportedly set off pagers amid fears that their plot was exposed. Okay, so what was happening? Well, it says Israeli intelligence services originally wanted to detonate the pagers as an opening blow in an all-out war with Hezbollah. They chose to act early. However, when a Hezbollah member became suspicious of the devices and planned to alert his superiors, Israeli leaders reportedly considered launching an immediate full-scale war in order to retain the pager attack as an opening blow. They also considered leaving things as they were, even at the risk of the operation being compromised. The Mossad injected a board inside the device that has explosive material that receives a code. So as you can see, this was part of a full-scale war operation, and what was supposed to happen was Israel would detonate the pagers and the walkie-talkies and then go into a full attack. So part of this was a psychops, but a confusion as a first wave of attack, a full-scale war attack. And I think that's the takeaway you want to understand. The cover was blown, basically, and Israel realized that their cover was blown, so they decided, well, let's just detonate them, and we're not going to attack. Let's detonate them because it's going to be found out, and let's just, do what we have to do, but we will not attack. Now, that's what happened. And so what you realize is Israel was about to go to war with Hezbollah. And we know they have been talking about this for a long time. And so it's not a matter of if they will attack, it's when Israel will attack. And we have speculated here that Israel could possibly attack during the window before the United States election. And why is that so? Well, because, as you know, the Biden administration has been slow walking arms to Israel to help them in their battle against Hamas, has been trying to dictate to Israel what to do in this war. And it's been insane. And you got to remember, the Biden administration has a lot of Obama holdovers, which are anti-Semitic. The Biden administration is no friend of Israel. They pretend to be, but they're not. And they basically have put a weapons embargo on Israel in fighting their war with not only Hamas, but with Hezbollah. The United States, the Biden administration does not want a regional war popping up in an election year because it makes them look bad. So this is why Biden has been slow walking this whole thing for political maneuvering. And now it's Kamala, obviously. But again, Biden wasn't in control, and neither was Kamala, or is Kamala. There's a deep state or whatever is controlling it. But the deep state around the United States government is anti-Semitic. It's anti-Israel. And so Israel knows this. And so we had heard rumors from our IDF contacts on the ground that they were planning to attack the north. And our own IDF units that we're in contact with were telling us they were moving up to the north. And that was back in June when I was in Israel. So we had already had suspicions that Israel was planning on a full-scale war with Hezbollah to knock them out. Well, you just saw a glimpse, and Israel became a hair's breadth away from attacking in a full-scale war, but the cover was blown, so they pulled out. Okay, but Israel still has to deal with the north, and I was reading a report this morning that Netanyahu is meeting with his top generals and war cabinet to think about, okay, what do we got to do to deal with the north? So it's not over. It is just simply delayed because the cover was blown. And let me explain the window that we're in. Because Israel knows that the Biden administration or the Harris administration is virulently anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, Israel knows that if Kamala wins this election, then the game is over because the United States is not going to want them to go into a full-scale war with Hezbollah. They want them to defend themselves, but they don't want a war in the Middle East because it doesn't serve the interests of the United States with the Biden administration or Kamala administrations or the globalist or deep state administration who have a pro-Iranian foreign policy. That's right, a pro-Iranian foreign policy. That's what we have seen from the Biden administration. It's not a pro-Israel policy, it's a pro-Iranian policy. And they think that if they can appease Iran, that Iran will back off its proxies in the region and get regional stability, which is insane to think like that, but that's America's foreign policy. So anyway, they don't want Israel to start a war with Iran. You and I are sitting here saying Iran needs to be, the Ayatollahs need to be eliminated. No doubt about that. We're not talking about the Iranian people. We're talking about the Iranian leaders. They need to be eliminated. The Ayatollahs need to be eliminated. They're the ones doing everything wrong. And the poor Iranian people suffer because of these Ayatollahs and the Shiite Muslim mindset of creating a global caliphate with the destruction of not only Israel, but with the destruction of the United States, the great Satan, as they call us. So anyway, this window is, okay, we know that if Kamala wins, all bets are off and we're not going to be able to do anything. The United States is going to hamstring us. And so they know that. They do know that if Trump gets in, that, hey, he'll back them and he'll help them and do whatever that needs to happen to eliminate Hamas and Iran. And so does Iran know this. And so does all these regional people, these rogue nations know this as well if Trump gets in there. This is why we're seeing on the United States front 2 assassination attempts on Trump, lawfare being leveled against Trump, and them doing everything they can to prevent Trump from getting in. And they're going to cheat like there's no tomorrow in the election. There's no doubt about that. They have to prevent Trump from getting in. So Israel realizes this. And so Israel's looking at the situation saying, look, if we're going to do something, we need to do it now, and before the election. And so that's why you saw them almost attack at this point. This week would have been the attack. So I suspect that Israel will regather themselves, regroup, and before the election, they will attack Hezbollah. I could be wrong, but like I said, you just watch them attack. And that attack was, they went on standstill because the cover was blown on that. Okay. So if Israel attacks, and Israel needs to attack, they need to wipe out Hezbollah, just like they need to wipe out Hamas or any terrorist proxy. But as you know, as prophecy students, this could set off a chain of events that we know is predicted for the last days. It could set off a chain of events with a Gog of Magog invasion. It could set off a chain of events with a Psalm 83 invasion. And you think about it, okay, so Israel goes after Hezbollah and wipes them out. Okay, that's an Iranian proxy. So basically that's an attack on Iran. And Iran then is going to get involved. And if Iran is involved, then you got Russia involved. Then you got Turkey involved, right? And you start having, the stair-stepping towards the Gog of Magog alliance starting to form, right? So you have that going on. And then also you have the Psalm 83 invasion, where that's an all-Arab invasion of all bordering countries around Israel that will eventually try to wipe out Israel from them being a people. And that can blow as well. And so we're looking at a scenario to where Israel, because of it being in an existential threat by Hezbollah and Hamas and Iran, it has to do something. But by them doing something, it triggers everything. It triggers the prophetic scenario in a lot of ways. And so we're intently watching this because, boy howdy, there's a lot that can go on. Now, at the same time this is happening, the UN General Assembly, and this is an article from the Times of Israel, has announced that they're going to force Israel out of their so-called occupied areas. And this is ridiculous, and the UN is about as evil and anti-Semitic as they come. But 40 countries adopted a resolution, and the votes were 124 to 14. I mean, look at that. Demanding Israel pull out of so-called Palestinian areas. And by the way, there's no such thing as a Palestinian area. There's no such thing as a Palestinian. That's a myth. These are Arabs, okay? Many of them are ex-Jordanians. So anyway, and again, look what the UN called it, occupied Palestinian territory. There's no such thing. Israel is not an occupier. Israel belongs to the land. Just look at any history or archaeology or anything in the land. Israel's been there for, since the days of Joshua, for goodness sakes. Come on, man. And anyway, they call it's an unlawful presence, and they've called for an embargo on arms, that Israel might not use those weapons in those areas, referring to the United States. And then the resolution called for them to move within 12 months out of, think about this, the old city of Jerusalem, Judea and Samaria, and the Gaza. That's insane, right? Well, we already know that all those areas they want them to move out belongs to Israel. And biblically speaking, and historically speaking, and archaeologically speaking, and conquest speaking, Israel regained those areas, Judea and Samaria, and they regained the old city. They regained all those areas in the 6-day war. So by all accounts, biblical, archaeological, historical, and by conquest, those lands belong to Israel. They're not occupiers. So it's a lie. But they want them to get out in 12 months. It's crazy. Now, of course, Israel's not going to do that. But what I'm trying to show you is the hatred of Israel by the countries of the world. There was 40 different countries, 124 votes, cast against them. And what is that about? Well, it's, again, stair-stepping to the end times. And the scripture reference is Zechariah chapter 12, verse 3, where it says, all nations will come against her. And that's a reference to the tribulation, obviously. But the stair-stepping, the stage setting is starting to happen, where all these nations are coming against Israel, including the United States. And that's why this election in the United States is so important for Israel, because it can go really bad for Israel if Kamala gets in there, or it can go good for Israel if Trump gets in there. So this is a big deal in the United States and for Israel. But the stair step is starting to happen. And that's, as prophecy students, what we're watching. We're watching Israel be forced into a situation that's going to trigger a chain of events, a chain reaction that sets off, the Gog of Magog and the Psalm 83 war. And then eventually sets off a situation where they need help. And that's why they will do the deal with the Antichrist in the future. But right now, this worldwide anti-Semitism is growing. And it's been growing since October 7th, and it's getting worse and worse every month, every week, every day. We keep seeing more and more anti-Semitic sentiments from not only politicians, but groups and NGOs and global organizations and college students and all kinds of weird stuff, right? That we never thought was there, but has been an undercurrent in our society. And that is building to that Zechariah chapter 12 passage. So what do? Well, we have to keep our eyes fixed on Israel. We should expect things to heat up over there. And if it does heat up over there and they go into a full-scale war with Hezbollah and Iran, it will affect you and I. It will affect you because it affects energy prices. And so you will be directly affected by your gas prices. That's what will happen. That's how you'll feel it. And if gas prices are affected, which is energy prices, that means your food prices will go up because of transportation. So this means a lot to everybody. So you can't just say, well, I live in the West and it's not going to affect me. It will affect you. And this election will affect you in a huge way. If we turn on Israel, and we turn our backs like we've been doing, and I'm not talking about you and I, but the United States government turns their back on Israel, and we continue to go the route that the Biden administration and the Kamala administration has been going, well, you're in violation of Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, because you're cursing Israel. And you already know that passage, I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. You turn your back on Israel and you curse her, guess what happens to your nation? Your nation gets cursed. That's God's foreign policy. So there's a lot at stake here. So my admonition to you is pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Obviously, pray for Israel to take care of business with the least amount of casualties. Pray for Israel's salvation, right? And pray to the Lord to spare us in the United States and getting in a leader that is going to be pro-Israel, okay? Because a lot at stake is if you get an anti-Semitic leader that hates Israel, that brings more judgment on the nation, as I mentioned. So anyway, let's keep our eyes focused in on God's timepiece, Israel. Let's see what happens, and we'll take it from there. At the same time, we need to be about our Father's work. We need to be about evangelizing, discipling, and doing exactly what we're called to do, because it appears to us the time is growing short. And like the Lord said, when you see these things begin to happen, look up, lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near. That means we're getting closer to seeing the rapture. So that's the good news. Anyway, we got to get going, but remember, prayerfully support us at Tip of the Spear Ministry, because we get a lot of attacks, not only from the censorship that's out there, but we also get attacks from the demonic spiritual realm. We're constantly being hit because of that, because we're trying to get the truth out. And if the Lord puts it on your heart to help us financially, that would be tremendous. Go to tipofthespearministry.com. Go to the giving tab. You can give there and support our broadcast, support all the work we're doing, trying to get the truth out. Because it takes a lot of resources to put a production together. So that would be a tremendous blessing to help us out. Anyway, we got to get going, but God bless you, and keep looking up, because the Lord's coming back. We'll see you next time.